Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile is directed by Joe Berlinger and stars Zac Efron as Ted Bundy in a courtroom frenzy that ensues and sweeps 1970s America when a young single mother reluctantly tips the attention of a widespread manhunt toward her longtime boyfriend and historic mass murderer, Ted Bundy. Now, this movie has had a fair amount of buzz surrounding it. This primarily debuted, I believe, at Sundance Film Festival, and then has gone on to be purchased by Netflix, or here in the UK, Sky, which, if you don't know, if you're outside of the UK, Sky is a television broadcaster. And this film has kind of just been surrounded by quite a lot of hype and buzz, which is something I've never quite understood about it outside of perhaps the cast. But I did finally get to sit down and watch this movie this weekend, and I've got quite a few interesting thoughts about it. So let's just get the cat out of the bag straight away. Zac Efron, how is he as Ted Bundy? Well, he definitely manages to capture the charm and the charisma that Ted Bundy was known for. However, it doesn't seem particularly hard for Efron to be able to portray this on screen, because Zac Efron is a very likable, very charming, and very charismatic actor as is. He doesn't necessarily need to put on a performance to do that. So, to be honest, I'm not quite sure if this was a good performance or if this was a, just good kind of vibe movie, because at the end of the day, it's difficult to actually perceive the difference between, an acting persona of Ted Bundy and Zac Efron's persona, in terms of their likability. Obviously, in terms of their actions, they were very, very different people, but in regards to their charisma and their charm, they're kind of indistinguishable, so I don't really know whether this was a good performance or if this was just Zac Efron playing himself. It's kind of difficult to tell, so it depends on what you're looking for, really, and I feel like with Zac Efron, he definitely does a good job in this movie. I just don't know if the performance is going to knock your socks off in any way. Now, Lily Collins plays his longtime girlfriend in this movie, and she is also very good in this movie. I really liked her a lot. She did a lot of good work in this movie. What's interesting, though, is that this movie is kind of perceived to be told from her perspective, but she's not really in the movie that much, to the point where I would consider it being told from her perspective. I would much more say this is a lot more from Ted's perspective than it is from Lily Collins' perspective. I mean, she is very heavily prominent in the first portion of the movie, but as it goes on, she's kind of in it less and less. And it's only really when you get to the end, when you find out kind of what she did, where you kind of realise she was more instrumental than you thought, but it doesn't really change the fact that you kind of cast her aside for most of the movie's runtime. The dialogue in the script is really where this movie kind of falls apart, because it's so cheesy and so unrealistic to the point where you just don't buy these people, like, especially because this is supposed to be a biopic. This is supposed to be a true story. This is a real thing that happened, and these are real people, and they didn't feel like real people. The romance stuff was incredibly poorly handled, in my opinion, and I don't really like how the movie perceives itself. It's very, very interesting to see that this film kind of took the route that Vice almost took, where Vice kind of did this really weird thing, especially in its marketing in particular. Not necessarily the movie itself, but particularly the marketing, where they really made Dick Cheney seem like this really cool guy. And they kind of do that with Ted Bundy in this movie. There's a particular scene, which I won't spoil if you've not seen the movie, but there's a particular scene where the music is kind of cool, and it's, and Ted is doing something, and it kind of makes it seem like it's a cool thing to be doing, that this is a cool guy that we should be rooting for and we should be supporting, because like I said, Lily Collins, I would not class as the main character or the lead actress in this film. I would say it was Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. So it's like we're supposed to be having a fun time and rooting for this lead to do this thing, and it doesn't sit right with me. Also, the pacing in this movie is completely off. There's so many different moments where it's going at a breakneck pace. Like, this movie is fast. And for some people, that might not be a problem. A lot of people, like fast-paced movies. They like movies to get to the point. But this movie is, in my opinion, way too fast. It's far too fast. It skips over about... I'd say it skips over about a good 15, 20 years of valuable information that us, the audience, should be knowing about. And it just kind of breezes over that. Like, luckily for us, this is a true story, so we know these facts. But if this was a fictional story, this would be a huge problem, because we are skipping over large amounts of detail and character development that we would not get in a fictional story. Like I say, in this particular case, we can find out those things if we so desire, but it still doesn't change the fact that the movie doesn't cover a large portion of these characters' lives. And this film does the biopic thing that I really can't stand, which is where they just jump around all over the place. It's not so bad as the movie goes on. It does kind of fall into place as it goes on, particularly at first. It does jump around a fair bit, and it's kind of frustrating. And the structure overall doesn't really work because, like I say, it starts off in this particular place, then it jumps about 15 years, and then it kind of jumps back and forth a little bit, and then it carries on chronologically. So that's what I mean. The structure is all over the place, and I didn't really appreciate how the movie was formed. Overall, I found Extremely Wicked to be extremely disappointing, actually. Extremely underwhelming. I was actually really looking forward to this movie. Like I say, I heard a lot of the good things coming out about it on Sundance, and then when I heard it was on Sky here, I thought, okay, great, I'm going to go watch that. And I was really excited to sit down and watch it. In the end, like I say, I just think the movie's very underwhelming. It's not really particularly bad or offensive. It's just a bit meh. It's not boring necessarily, but it's kind of just in the middle. It's very average to me, and I feel like with a movie and a story about Ted Bundy, it shouldn't necessarily be that middle of the road. This could have been something really awesome and really interesting. And what's funny is the director of this film also directed the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix. So this guy is experienced with this particular story. He knows what he's doing with this material. But the fact that this film completely falls flat is really disappointing because it had so much potential. And while there are good elements in it and there are good things to be found within, the movie just comes across a bit bland for me. So have you guys seen Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile? I think that's what it was called. And if you have, make sure you let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a conversation about this movie in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews from me, be sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again next time.